The NFL regular season has come to an end and we emerge on the playoffs this weekend. But before we do so, we must complete another tier list. Yes, I am ranking every NFL team as we head into the playoffs. And I know some of you guys are clamoring for the playoff bracket prediction video. Get this video to 50 likes, it'll be out tomorrow. If not, see you Thursday. Let's hop into the tier list. All right, so you can see that the tier list has changed a little bit here. We have can win one game, conference title game ceiling, can win it all, but I'm not sure in my, favorites. That tier has not changed. Let's start with the can win one game. I'm putting the Houston Texans here. I think the Houston Texans could absolutely win a playoff game this year and could beat the Los Angeles Chargers, but I'm not going to say that I think that they could go into Kansas City or Buffalo and win that game. The offensive line, it's just not in a good enough spot. And the Tank Dell injury, do I fully trust Deontay Johnson to be that number 2 wide receiver this quick? I don't. The defense, it's solid. I love what D'Amico's put together there. That pass rush of Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., I do think could cause fits for some of these teams and keep games closer. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't think the offense is explosive enough at this point in time to go on the road and win a playoff game, really. They have to win the one at home, and then they'd be going to Kansas City or Buffalo. I just don't see it. Pittsburgh. I know a lot of people are going to tell me that there's no shot in hell that Pittsburgh beats Baltimore. I looked at the weather projection in Baltimore for Saturday night, and I saw snow and snow showers. And listen, if this game gets defensive, Pittsburgh has seen Baltimore more than any team has since Lamar Jackson has been the quarterback and has given Lamar Jackson the most trouble. I don't love the matchup here for Baltimore. We'll get to the pick later in the week, obviously. It's not like Pittsburgh's a favorite or anything, but I wouldn't be, oh my God, Pittsburgh upset Baltimore. Like, that is that rivalry. You understand that. But again, going to Buffalo or going to Kansas City or, however the bracket shakes out, I just can't see Pittsburgh winning multiple playoff games. I could see them potentially winning one. And that's how I feel with Denver as well, man. I think a lot of people are just assuming the Bills are going to dog walk Denver. And I understand that in terms of Josh Allen versus Bo Nix, but that defense, you get some bad weather up in in Buffalo, and maybe it could happen. I don't think it could happen. I'm probably not going to pick it to happen, but I think it has that possibility. It's the NFL. I think it's possible, but I don't think there's a shot in hell that the Broncos are going to Buffalo, beating the Bills, and then going to Kansas City and beating the Chiefs. I also have the Commanders and the Buccaneers in this tier. They play each other. I think ultimately one of them has to win that game, so one of them will win a playoff game, but I don't see either of them progressing further. I think both teams have become a little bit too reliant on their quarterback to make offense. The way that Baker Mayfield had to rush for 70 yards versus New Orleans to move the ball scares me. Jaden Daniels, obviously, he's had to do it all this year for Washington, and that's why he's going to win an Offensive Rookie of the Year. But I think outside of Terry McLaurin, there's just a lot of guys there. That defense, you can run on both of these teams, in my opinion. Tampa Bay, it's more to the outside because Vita Vea is a beast. And Tampa Bay's secondary concerns me. So does Washington's, because they traded for Lattimore, but that guy's hamstring's hanging on by a thread at this point. One of them will beat each other on Sunday night, and I do think that game will be a fun game, but I don't see either of them going to Detroit or Philly and winning that game. Up next, we got conference title game ceiling. These are the teams that I think could make it to a conference championship, but I don't think can go to a Super Bowl. We're going to start with the Chargers. I think it's very possible that the Chargers' path falls in a way that they can win, right? They play Houston, they're favored to win that game. I don't need to explain that to you. But if they go to Kansas City, a team that they've played twice this year and played close, divisional games can always get a little wonky. And I believe in Justin Herbert just that much more than I do Bo Nix, which is why I have the separation in tiers here. The Chargers, the path falls kind of in their favor there. I don't think that they're a Super Bowl team by any means, but I think the path could have them in a conference title game. Green Bay, I don't think Green Bay, with the Christian Watson injury, with the Jordan Love injury, just with the way that they've been playing, can sustain winning 4 straight road playoff games. but I do think that there's enough talent that maybe they could play upset to one or two teams, very similar to how I viewed them last year when they upset the Cowboys. They could have upset the Niners, but I just didn't think that that streak was able to continue. Jordan Love, I think, hasn't taken that leap forward that so many people expect him to. He's kind of stayed where he's at. Josh Jacobs is a great player, but at the end of the day, in this NFC where they'd have to play Philly and Detroit and, in back-to-back games, it's, I just don't think that that run fully happens for them. Maybe it does, but I'm just not buying it at this point in time. Next, we got the can win it all, but I'd be kind of surprised. Starting off with the LA Rams, and I'll just put their opponent, the Minnesota Vikings. Listen, the Rams with Stafford, McVay, Puka, Cooper Kupp, Kyren Williams, and that offense, I'm never going to count them out of a game, right? The defense has kind of come alive towards the end of the year. They've had some decent defensive performances. Jared Verse is going to be the defensive rookie of the year. He's a pretty special player. They can pressure the opposing quarterback, but I don't love their secondary, but I can't count out Stafford. You could argue he's the best quarterback in the NFC, and you could argue McVay is the best head coach in the NFC. And when you have those two things, I can't count you out from making it to and potentially even winning a Super Bowl, because once you're there, it's a one-game game. You know what I mean? The Minnesota Vikings. Listen, I get that everybody's selling their stock on this team after the loss to Detroit, and I moved them out of the favorites tier just because being the 5 seed, I do think the path is tougher. Having to go and play Matt Stafford on the road after winning 14 games, that fucking sucks. Like, that is a brutal draw for them. And then after that, they'd have to go on the road to Philly or to Detroit if the bracket holds, obviously. And it's just a really, really tough path, but I do think it's possible. Minnesota rattled off 9 straight wins before that loss to Detroit. The divisional game versus Detroit that could potentially be there in round 2. And then if you get to Philly, etc., or maybe somebody else knocks out Philly and it's, the Packers going to Minnesota or whatever, that's kind of why I had Packers as well as a conference title game ceiling. I just wouldn't pick them to beat Detroit, Philly, or Minnesota at this point in time. But Minnesota, I think it's possible, but I think it's unlikely. And then we get to the favorites tier, and as no surprise, it's just kind of been the tier that I've been rocking with for the last 2 months at this point. Kansas City, they have the best player in the world, they have the best coach in the league, they have a really good defense, and they have a 1 seed bye. That path to getting to a Super Bowl is a lot easier. You don't play wildcard weekend, and every game goes through Arrowhead. The Chiefs are in a really, really good spot to potentially be the first team in NFL history to three-peat. Josh Allen and the Bills, they're the 2 seed. Most every game besides an AFC Championship match with the Chiefs will go through their stadium. They have a top 3 quarterback in the sport. They have a guy who's potentially going to win the MVP, and I think they have a plethora of weapons. Amari Cooper, Khalil Shakur, Dalton Kincaid, Keon Coleman, James Cook have all produced very high for the Bills this year, plus what you get from Josh Allen on his legs. McDermott always coaches up a really solid defense. They've got a path, and I think they should be considered a favorite. As well, the last team in the AFC, this 3-headed AFC monster, is the reason that Detroit is favored on most sports betting sites to win the Super Bowl right now, because Vegas feels these 3 teams would probably beat everybody coming out of the NFC. That is what they're telling you with that number. Lamar Jackson, you could argue he should be winning his 3rd MVP award. He's playing at a level that I've never seen him get to. This is the best passing version of Lamar Jackson we've ever seen. And now they have Derrick Henry going in this playoff run. The injury to Zay Flowers really does worry me, because in that passing game, they're going to ask a lot more out of Rashad Bateman and a lot more out of Mark Andrews now, and maybe even Isaiah Likely. But that defense, over the last 2 months, has been a top 10 defense in the league statistically. This is one of those things that we talked about early in the season could happen for Baltimore, and if it does, it's going to be great because they've been the best offense all year, and now they're starting to figure it out defensively. Baltimore is a very, very scary team going into the playoffs. Their path's a little bit harder because they are a 3 seed, and theoretically they'd have to go to Buffalo and then to Kansas City. But I'm not sleeping on Baltimore. I think they're really, really talented. The Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions swapped spots with the Vikings for me because they earned themselves the 1 seed, not having to play wildcard weekend, a team that's already injured. David Montgomery was expected to be back for the divisional round. Well, that's the first time that the Lions have to play now. Him and Jahmyr Gibbs is a disgusting duo. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Sam Laporta, a top 3 offensive line in the sport. Jared Goff has been excellent. Ben Johnson is still calling the plays on offense. Aaron Glenn still calling them on defense. Dan Campbell's the leader in that locker room. not having Aiden Hutchinson and some other defensive pieces really sucks, but Detroit has put themselves in a very, very good spot here. I do think that they have a strong chance to win it all as well. Every playoff game that they're going to play will be indoors at this point. That's huge for them. They are playing on turf. That is huge for the speed that they have with Gibbs and Jamison Williams. You cannot underrate that. The Detroit Lions beating Minnesota was so important, and they got it done. And Philly, I think Philly top to bottom might be the best roster in all of the NFL. Jalen Hurts, I do expect him to be back. Obviously, I'm going to wait and see the news on that before giving my playoff predictions, but I do think that Jalen Hurts will be back. And if that's so, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, a top 3 offensive line. Sounds a little similar to the way I talked about Detroit, right? Those might be independent of what the Chiefs have done the last couple of years and Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson MVP race. Detroit and Philly, I think, have the best top to bottom rosters in the NFL. That Eagles defense under Vic Fangio is no joke. They don't let, big plays happen. They don't give up mistakes. As long as Philly can control the turnover battle and control the time of possession, you might favor them against anybody. Those 5 teams, to me, in the favorites tier, I would be floored if one of them didn't win the Super Bowl. The Rams and the Vikings, I give a little bit of a shot to, but my favorites tier, I'd be floored if it wasn't one of those 5 teams. But these are just my thoughts on the NFL playoff teams. As always, let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. Remember, get this video to 50 likes. My playoff predictions will drop tomorrow. If you guys are new to the channel and you love the NFL, like what you see, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.